Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler Russo, and this is the KO Podcast, episode number 12. In this episode, we will be reviewing UFC 278. Man, what an event that was. We will get into that. Also, we had PFL over the weekend. All of the championship matchups are set. And also, I would love to touch on Mike Perry and MVP's bare knuckle fight. Ring that bell. All right, let's start with this PFL card. The first fight I would like to talk about is a featherweight semifinal between Kudo versus Jenkins, and Bubba Badman Jenkins gets the first round submission. He took Kudo's back and submitted him. Very impressive win. And again, he moves on to that $1 million championship fight. Next up, we had a women's lightweight semifinal. We had Larissa Pachenko taking on Olena Kolinsky. And Pachenko does what she does. She gets the first round finish. She keeps her streak alive. I believe that's like 5 straight first round knockouts in a row. So she's on a mission. She advances to that $1 million title fight. And moving on, we had a featherweight semifinal. This was a very anticipated fight. We had Chris Wade taking on Brandon Loughnane, and Loughnane gets it done by decision. He moves on to that featherweight championship. That is going to be a good matchup between him and Bubba Jenkins. Then we move on to the other women's lightweight semifinal. We had Kayla Harrison taking on Martina Jindrova, and Kayla Harrison does what Kayla Harrison does, and she dominated the fight from start to finish, even though it was a first round finish, so it wasn't bell to bell necessarily, but she gets the dominant finish with the submission victory. She, of course, moves on to the $1 million title fight. Now, this is a very interesting title fight because Harrison and Pacheco have fought 2 times already, and Harrison has brought Pacheco to decision wins. So can Pacheco get a victory over Kayla Harrison? In my personal opinion, I think Kayla Harrison is going to win her 3rd PFL belt. Now, we're going to move on to UFC 278. All right, to start off the card, we had a first round finish by Victor Almareno. Then we also had a very impressive submission by Amar Albazi. Those are 2 flyweights to keep your eye out on. And now let's move forward in the card. We had a crazy fight with AJ Fletcher and Ange Olusa. I mean, crazy, just insane fight, really. So, Lusa gets the decision victory, but I can tell you I did not think that it was going to go to a decision. And again, this kind of started the theme of the night where really, first round, fighters, they looked fine. Second round, completely gassed. Almost every fight, all the fighters were gassed by the second round, and I definitely think that was to the altitude out there. The air being thinner. You gotta be in that climate for at least a month or more, really, to get acclimated. But back to this fight, second round, AJ Fletcher, he's all bloodied up, and he just starts swinging on Lusa. I thought he was gonna get him out of there. So if you have not seen it, go back and watch that second round. Crazy sequence, but again, Lusa, he gets that decision victory. A featherweight matchup was next. It was Sean Woodson and Luis Saldana. Really weird fight. First round, normal fight. Second round, Woodson gets dropped, and then he gets dropped again, and Saldana both times kind of showboated, took his time. He didn't go and attack him, and try to get the ground and pound finish. And the second time that he dropped Woodson, he charged at him and illegally kneed him in the head. He thinks the fight's over because the referee stops the fight, but he put up the time signal. But Saldana was too busy on the top of the cage celebrating, and right then and there I was like, Saldana is going to have a hard time getting back in this fight because that adrenaline dump, like he just thought he won the fight, and Woodson, he got his time to recover. They resumed. Saldana got a point taken away, and it goes to a draw, unfortunately. So that was an unfortunate end to that fight. Really weird circumstances. You just got to finish the fight when the opportunity poses itself, and Saldana did not jump on that opportunity, and he paid for it ultimately in that fight. Moving on, Jared Gordon got the win against Leandro Santos, and a really, really big upset in my eyes. Marcin Tabora, he won against Alexander Romanov. I thought Romanov was going to run through him just like everybody else, but hey, Tabora, he's known for taking punishment and sticking around, and he had a tough first round. Romanov was, he lifted him up and slammed him like twice. I mean, you wouldn't even think Tabora was a heavyweight with the way that Romanov was throwing him around, but Tabora, he comes back second and third round. He just a great performance in those rounds to pick up the decision victory. So he sticks around in this in these heavyweight contenders. Then we're gonna move on to the main card, and if I'm being honest with you, the first two fights on this card, not really pay-per-view worthy in my eyes. The first fight, we had Tyson Pedro. He took on Harry Huntsucker, and a minute and 5 into the first round, Pedro gets it done. Huntsucker was a huge underdog, and no one expected him to win, and he did not win. And Pedro, he gets the nice finish. He looked good in the fight, so that's another light heavyweight to watch out for. Then we had a women's bantamweight fight. We had Iana Wu taking on Luis Povaca, I think. That's how you say her name. And she and Luis Povaca got the victory. And now, moving on to the last three fights, which was the reason why I got this pay-per-view in the first place. We had a bantamweight matchup between Jose Aldo and Merab Delvishi, and Merab gets the decision victory. He was high pace, would not stop trying to take down Aldo. Pressure. That's what Merab's game plan is, and he didn't get really any. I don't think he got a single takedown. I think he went 0 for like 10 or something, and Aldo didn't really help his case either to win the fight, because just not a lot of offense thrown by him. He wasn't throwing his hands. He wasn't throwing any combinations. He was just kind of frozen, sitting there watching Merab kind of pressure him. And Aldo seemed to be on the back foot a lot at times, and that's obviously because of Merab's pressure. So it wasn't the most exciting fight, but Merab, I can't really criticize him. I mean, he's going against Jose Aldo, although Dana White wasn't too happy with the fight at the post-fight press conference, and I think, and he also didn't like that Merab wouldn't say if he was going to fight for the title because Aljamain Sterling and him are really good friends, and Aljamain helps him prepare for all his fights, and vice versa. Merab helps the champ with his fights. So that's going to be kind of interesting, really, because Merab, he's in that title picture now, and he wouldn't, again, in the post-fight, he was asked if he would fight his friend, Aljamain, and he didn't really answer the question, and he deflected it because I don't think he really wants to fight Aljamain, but I mean, is Aljamain going to move up to featherweight if he wins against Dillashaw? So there's a lot of questions now after this fight in that top 5 of the bantamweight division. And now we move on to one of the craziest fights of this card. It would have been the craziest if this was the last fight of the night. But we had Paulo Costa taking on Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold, this was his first fight in 3 years. It was a big layoff for him. And with such a big layoff, you never know how fighters physically and mentally are going to react to being back in a fist fight, really. And, I never had seen Luke Rockhold fight in person, but, he did not win. Paulo Costa got the decision victory, but Luke Rockhold, I just want to take a minute. He is a pioneer of the MMA game. He was fighting in Strikeforce. He was the Strikeforce middleweight champ. He was the UFC middleweight champ. He had a dominant win a dominant finish over Chris Weidman to win the UFC middleweight title. So he retired after the fight, I believe. He said he was done. He was too old. And, what a way to go out for Luke Rockhold, really. He was hurt from the beginning, really. And, again, the altitude getting to both fighters, both him and Costa. But Luke looked way more tired. By the second round, he had his hands on his knees, and he looked like he was about to pass out. But then all of a sudden, he connects a powerful shot on Costa's chin, and everyone in the crowd goes wild. And then in the third round, with the fight clock dwindling down, Luke Rockhold, he gets top position on Paulo Costa, and he's all bloodied up, all blood in his mouth and nose, and he just rubs all his blood all over Costa. And that is just the type of fighter Luke Rockhold is and will always be in my eyes. A gritty fighter, and he didn't win, but he looked pretty good. His kicks looked sharp, and he got really, really tired. And whether that was because it was his first fight in 3 years or the altitude, it could have been a combination of both. But now let's talk about Costa. So Costa, he was on a 2-fight losing streak. He lost to Izzy, and then he had that big weight miss with Vittori, and he lost that fight as well. So Costa, he didn't get the finish here, and I don't know how that really looks if you're on his side, because Luke Rockhold, he got hit with powerful shots. And I mean, people make fun of him for not having a chin, but in this fight, he had a chin. He had a really good chin because both guys were throwing power shots. I think that also led to both men being tired. It's just this was a great fight. It got fight of the night. Both guys, deserve all the credit in the world. It was a great fight. They had the fans in Salt Lake on their feet, and it was an amazing appetizer to this crazy main event that we were about to witness. And, of course, here I am talking about the main event. I don't think you need me to tell you who won. I mean, one of the craziest fights, if not the craziest fight that I've witnessed live. Leon Edwards, he wins the first round. He takes down Uzman and stays in top position until the round ends. That, on its own, is crazy because Leon Edwards is the first man ever to take down Kamaru Uzman. And he held him there, too. And he was, I think he was starting to try to get some offense going, but there just wasn't enough time in the first round. He comes out in the second. He looks tired. He said his body was not reacting, to what he really wanted to do. And Edwards, he struggled in rounds 2, 3, 4. And his corner was really getting on him and really motivated him, I think, to have the fifth round that he did. There's under a minute left, I think 58 seconds, and boom, head kick lands. Uzman's out cold, eyes open, looking up at the sky. I mean, no one saw it coming. Nobody saw it coming. It was perfectly set up. It was not a lucky shot at all. Perfectly set up by Edwards. He feinted that jab. Uzman, he parried, and he parried right into a kick, and it was a brutal kick, and no follow-up shots needed, just statement made. Uzman was out for a while, and unfortunately, it was in front of his family, and there was reports that his daughter was very upset and crying, as she should be, because she just saw her dad get brutally knocked out. And I think as MMA fans and as MMA media, we got to remember that these guys and girls, they could have little ones at their fights or just watching on TV, and it kind of brings you back to reality. When I heard that, I was sad, and that's the thrill and agony of mixed martial arts. This is, it's you have the highest of highs in the sport and the lowest of lows. But Uzman, I don't think he's finished. I think they should. I think they are. They're going to run it back for a trilogy in England. That would be great. I would love for Kamaru Uzman to try and get his revenge, because listen, he was fighting the perfect fight, and he got caught with a beautiful head kick. And Edwards, again, to his credit, he set that head kick up beautifully, and this victory, that last second knockout, it couldn't have happened to anyone nicer and more deserving than Leon Edwards. This guy's been through hell and back. He's had fight cancellations after fight cancellations. He got COVID and had to pull out of the Chimaev fight, I believe, over a year ago. He always felt underlooked. And just, Leon, just congratulations. And, you deserve it, man. And, a lot of emotions pouring out for him after the fight. He called his mom, saying, I did it. I told you I would do it. I said I would do it. And that's just amazing. Just an amazing moment in UFC history it's going to be remembered for a while. And just what a crazy card. I couldn't sleep after this card because my adrenaline was through the roof. And credit to the UFC, credit to all the fighters putting their lives on the line, putting their health on the line. And I just want to say a quick thank you to every mixed martial artist for doing this crazy sport for our entertainment. And speaking of crazy, let's talk bare knuckle boxing. BKFC 27 London went down on Saturday, and there's only one fight I want to talk about, and that is the main event: Mike Perry versus Michael Venom Page. Everyone was surprised when Michael Venom Page announced that he was going from Bellator to BKFC. Credit to Bellator for letting him try something new, and it was a violent fight. It was back and forth. It was really interesting to see MVP's movement kind of in a boxing style match. But Mike Perry, he's gonna go bowl forward and just throw big shots, and that is exactly what he did. It was a very, very competitive fight, and they even went to a overtime 6th round. So it must have been tied or something. After 5, I didn't even know that they had that rule in place, because I'm not too familiar with BKFC. I have seen some of their fights, but this definitely got me interested, in their promotion. So I've been looking around a little bit in bare knuckle. It's a very, very brutal sport. But Mike Perry, he gets the majority decision win after 6 rounds. Both guys' faces were just swollen to, just very badly swollen, all bloodied up. Credit to both fighters for putting on an amazing show for that London card. And that's going to wrap up BKFC talk. And that is going to do it for this episode of the KO Podcast. If you want to stay up to date, follow the podcast on Twitter at the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo. The podcast is on Instagram, the KO_podcast. That is the handle on Instagram. And we also have a YouTube page, the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to the show. Stay safe, stay blessed. Bye-bye.